Hyperinflation is one of the toughest things to explain to people. Hyperinflation basically means that money is worthless. The money, the value of that thing that you usually use to pay for stuff had become so low because the German government printed so much of it to pay their striking workers because of the invasion of the Ruhr, because of the reparations were set so high, meant that German currency now could not be used to buy things. The price of things had gone so high up that basically it was impossible to buy anything. The prices of things would change every single day. People would earn their week's wages. They'd earn, let's say, 100 marks or whatever that amount would have been. And by the time they got to the shops, the prices would have changed already. It meant that people couldn't use this money. We've got pictures here of children playing with it, a guy using it as wallpaper because it's more use using it as wallpaper rather than using it as actual money. And we've got people at the bottom here waiting for their wages and waiting outside a bakery to find out what the bread is going to cost. Because when people can't afford to buy things, that means they lose all the things they ordinarily buy, like bread. Bread is something we have a very lot of detail about. We know a lot about what its price was in shops, and it's the usual good example for hyperinflation. So let me just give you some information. In 1918, a loaf of bread was worth half of a mark, 50p. In 1921, it was worth 4 marks. The price had inflated, it got bigger. In 1922, it was worth 163 marks because money was being printed. 250 marks in 23. 3,500 marks in 23 July, so 6 months later we've gone up by a few thousands, and then by November of that same year, for one loaf of bread it cost 201 billion marks. It's not that they had more money, it's that their money was not going as far. They couldn't afford to do anything. Now, this affected a number of different groups of people in Germany. People who, anyone who worked basically was made essentially poor by this, but the worst affect people, I would say, are those who had savings in the bank. Let's imagine you'd saved up 10,000 marks in your bank account and suddenly it cost 100,000 marks to buy a loaf of bread. You have now essentially been forced into that your savings are now worthless. All of that time and money and worth is completely rubbish now. So all these people who've saved money were now essentially poor. On top of that, elderly people who are given pensions, it's basically a payment every month from the government and technically yourself to pay for your living. Imagine if you know you're receiving 500 marks every month. That's how much you receive every month as your pension because you can't work. But now everything costs hundreds of thousands of marks. You physically cannot buy anything anymore. Even that, small businesses had to constantly change prices and check what things were going or trying to figure out how things worked. And it basically led to a lot of mental health issues for people running these businesses because it was so mind-numbingly hard to figure out how on earth anything costs. The only people that succeeded out of hyperinflation were people who were in debt. I use the example of, let's say I owe somebody in this room 50,000 marks. I owed them 50,000 pounds even. That's a lot of money that I need to pay them back. But when hyperinflation came, the debt doesn't get bigger, but the value of my money apparently doesn't. So 50,000 marks became very easy to pay off, very quick to pay off, which meant that basically nobody is in debt in the country, but also everybody is poor in the country. This was a serious issue for Germany, it's a serious issue for the government. So let's just get some basic questions out of the way because it's really tough to understand and I really recommend you read the textbook because there's some really good definitions here. But just tell me, what is hyperinflation? What were the social effects of it? What happened to people? What were the economic effects? What happened to their money, literally? And then which groups of people benefited or suffered from hyperinflation most? If you know the answers and have relevant examples to give, then you are completely set for this hyperinflation topic. Good luck, and I'll see you later.